October was jam-packed with everything from London Film Festival, so I'm going to jump right in and talk about everything that I watched in October. I started by rewatching A Beautiful Mind, something that I'd kept meaning to rewatch for a long time. And I know it gets a lot of hate because it's Oscar bait, but there's some really, really good scenes in this film that just moved me to tears. The acting is great, and this probably has Russell Crowe's best performance, and Jennifer Connelly and Paul Bettany are great as well. Every time I watch it, I just can't get over the reveal scene of when John Nash is in the psychiatric hospital and he falls over and Paul Bettany is just sat there and it pans up to Christopher Plummer. It's great. Other than that, I think it's very much a first watch film. I didn't enjoy it as much the second time, but I still remember the first time I watched it, and I think that is what makes this film great. After A Beautiful Mind, I started London Film Festival by watching one of the first shots, which was Dropout, a film directed by Aid Femzo, which is a promising film from a young director, and it was very interesting to watch. It was an interesting concept, and it reminded me of Bernard's Watch, which I used to watch on CITV. Yeah, you remember this guy. But no, it was very interesting. I really, really liked the opening scene. The chemistry between the three boys was so good, but then I just wanted more from the film. It felt like it ended too quickly. My next film was my most anticipated film of the year, unrelated follow-up to The Father by Florian Zeller, which was The Son. And I was lucky enough to watch it at the Headlines Gala at London Film Festival this year and got to see Florian Zeller and Vanessa Kirby. And I sobbed all the way through it. Even though I didn't think it reached the same atmosphere and depth of The Father,
I want my mummy. I want my mummy. I want to get out of here.
The film in itself still had that raw feeling, something that Florian Zeller was really good at, but the film worked at its best in isolation, and I definitely will not be surprised if Hugh Jackman gets nominated for Best Acting Role.
What have I done? What's my fault?
Haven't I always done everything for you? I have the right to reinvent my life. It is my life.
On top of that, Laura Dern, Vanessa Kirby, they were great as well, and they will probably get nominated in their respective categories. The film, great overall. I would definitely recommend seeing it in its national release. And then next was the following day, I managed to see the Headlines Gala of The Whale by Darren Aronofsky with Brendan Fraser attending, which was absolutely amazing. There was a 5-minute standing ovation at the end, which was surreal, and Brendan Fraser deserved that with all his heart. And if he doesn't win Best Actor this year, I will be very, very surprised because he was absolutely insane. Sadie Sink was great as well. Their chemistry on screen was amazing. And that final section, Friday, was absolutely amazing. I absolutely loved it. Other than that, I won't get into too much spoilery details, but I would have tweaked the ending a little bit. Following on from that, on the high of London Film Festival, I carried on by watching another 2 short films that were nominated this year. The first one was An Avocado Pit, and the second was Czechoslovakia. I'm going to talk about them at the same time because both films follow a man secretly spying on trans women, which is a very strange concept, but both worked really well. And firstly, An Avocado Pit, it was kind of like Before Sunrise, where he befriends her and there's this sexual tension, and he realises at the end that it's not a fetish that he's got, it is just love. Czechoslovakia was him coming to terms with his homosexuality, and he starts to experiment with his co-worker, who eventually gets arrested for homosexuality. And it was very interesting. I feel like Czechoslovakia added a bit more depth to the concept as the police raided and arrested his co-worker for being gay. And I feel like that was an interesting section, but the acting in that scene was not very good, and it took me out of the film completely. But other than that, other interesting things about An Avocado Pit, I really liked the colour palette for it. It just looked like piss. It was green and yellow. It was very strange, but Czechoslovakia looked very flat. I didn't really pick out much creativity in it. It just felt very raw short film, but I wish it was just a bit more experimental, a bit more creative. Following that, I carried on with the first half of the London Film Festival shorts, and I watched Transparent and The Ocean Analogue. And both of these films, I'm not going to lie, were very, very boring. They weren't really my sort of thing. Transparent was a deep dive into some contemporary dancers' autobiography, but it felt like a PowerPoint with some music over it, and someone encapsulated what it looked like perfectly on Letterboxd by saying that it should belong in a museum. The Ocean Analogue was a bit more interesting. It was shorter, so enticed me a little bit more than the 30-minute runtime of Transparent. The Ocean Analogue was just colours and pictures. There was nothing to it, no talking. which was quite interesting, but if that's what you like, fine, but it's not my thing. I don't normally talk about TV shows, but because I'm looking at my Letterboxd, She-Hulk, I'm not going to get into it too much. I didn't like it personally, but I like the direction of the last episode. That's about it. I think Marvel needs to take a step back and think about their direction of where they want to go in the MCU now, because I feel like they've completely gone downhill. Anyway, enough about that.
I thought about killing myself today.
The next film I watched was Rosemary A.D. After Dad, which reminded me so much of
It's Such a Beautiful Day
by Don Hertzfeld, which is an amazing animated piece that follows a guy with depression and anxiety, and this was quite similar. It followed a dad contemplating suicide, wondering what would happen if he leaves his daughter behind, and there was 3 different stories following Rosemary. One where everything turns out okay, another where everything turns out very badly, and another where she doesn't remember him. And that was a great story. I love how it ended with him coming to terms with his psyche and his thoughts, and the Polaroid at the end just made it feel like the film actually came from the heart instead of Ethan Barrett's head. Next, I wasn't expecting to return to London Film Festival, but I managed to get tickets to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which was great. I really like Guillermo del Toro's art style as it is, and you could tell that he used that as much as he could in this. It was very dark, it was very Guillermo del Toro. I loved Jiminy Cricket, as always. Ewan McGregor is great, David Bradley was great as Geppetto, and something that was a bit unique about this adaptation of Pinocchio was it very centralised on Geppetto instead of Pinocchio, telling the story of fatherhood and fascism for some odd reason, which was great. The film was both funny and heartwarming. It was a good film to slot into Guillermo del Toro's filmography, and I would definitely recommend checking it out when it drops on Netflix on December the 9th. So my next film was a rewatch of the 2015 film Room, which I keep meaning to rewatch, and although I didn't really like it the first time I watched it back in 2015, I liked it a bit more this time. I still think that Jacob Tremblay and Brie Larson give 2 of the best performances in this film, and I really love the tone and atmosphere of the film, especially when it's just in the room, and the film does a really good job of making you feel uncomfortable when they're outside of the room, which is great, but there's still something that doesn't really work for me, and I think it's in terms of the editing.
You know I don't like to meet new people.
My next film was Emily, starring Emma Mackey, the directorial debut from Frances O'Connor. An amazing performance from Emma Mackey, and a great film in general. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to like it. Emma Mackey will most likely probably get a BAFTA nomination. If she doesn't, I will be very surprised. On top of that, the score and cinematography were beautifully used, and Frances O'Connor painted a beautifully bleak world surrounding Emily Bronte, but I feel like she struggled to transition from scene to scene. There was the overuse of the fade, for one thing, which was fine, but after a while it kind of got a bit tedious. But overall, this will most likely win a few nominations at the BAFTAs, but I'm not sure it's done enough to win some attention at the Academy Awards, but we shall soon see next month. Following this, I did the last part of the London Film Festival shorts to close off this year, and I started with I Have No Legs and I Must Run, which is probably my second favourite short this year after Rosemary AD, and probably the best short to come out of London Film Festival. It was beautifully shot, it was visually enticing all the way through, and it was such a great short that trusted its audience in what they were watching instead of over-delivering on dialogue, which was great, like following male dominance and struggles while he's running and hurts his leg and he wants to be the best. He wants to be the dominant male in this situation, which was such a cool aspect to watch. The next one was The Ritual of Beauty, a short documentary that I couldn't help but compare it to Transparent, which was also another autobiographical short doc. But Ritual of Beauty succeeded way better than Transparent did. It was poetic, it was shot very well, it was a very enticing story, which was great. So I enjoyed that a lot more than Transparent, but still wasn't my favourite from this year. And then it was A Sod State, another documentary, which was very punk in its stylizing. It was a great documentary, but I feel like it missed the overall point it was trying to make because it focused more on stylistically making an aesthetic short over really getting into the nitty-gritty on what the short was trying to depict. But other than that, A Sod State had a really, really unique aspect to it where they used a doll to do the interviews, which was really creepy and really spooky. And as I said at the start, it was very, very punk. And the last short of this year was It's Raining Frogs Outside, which was another visual piece dealing with isolation set to the backdrop of the pandemic. Even if it didn't have that in mind, it's very hard to watch this film in 2022 without thinking about the pandemic. And the quote that stuck out the most to me from this one, to make it feel like the pandemic, was, "It's different when solitude is a requirement and not a personal choice," it's great. The film was trippy. It used visuals all the way through. And next up was, I finally got round to watching X by Ty West.
I'm a fucking star!
One of my favourite horror films that I have seen in a long time, I would say. Jenna Ortega and Mia Goth were both great in the film. Everyone else was also great. And I feel like Ty West treated this film completely with respect. He wanted to create a story instead of just scaring the audience for the sake of it. I think it was great. I would definitely recommend checking it out. And I feel like he's definitely made a cult classic here, if not a series, if Pearl, which I still need to get around to seeing, and the future sequel Maxine are just as good as this. Next up, skipping over Doctor Who, The Power of the Doctor, was Decision to Leave, Park Chan-wook's latest feature, which was one of the most unique films of 2022, which is a tall statement, seeing as Everything Everywhere All at Once came out. But no, this film reinvented the romance genre. It was so cool. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I'm so glad that all the characters were so interesting instead of just being a dickhead detective and a femme fatale falling in love. It was a bit more deeper than that, and it was very poetic. So many quotes to pull out from the film, which was so good. My only quarrel with the film was it did feel like it dragged a little bit, especially after the time jump, but other than that, I really had a good time watching this. It was funnier than I thought it was going to be, and it was a lot of fun to watch, so I would definitely recommend watching that on Mubi. My next film was The Banshees of Inisherin, Martin McDonagh's latest, which was so good. One of my favourite films of the year. It was so funny all the way through, and Martin McDonagh really knows how to write a screenplay. Both Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell were great in their respective roles, and Barry Keoghan was also great. But I feel like Colin Farrell really carried this film. I feel like he put on a really good performance, which was a simple progression from nice guy to just petty and anger, which was great to watch throughout. This film was also beautifully shot and really funny throughout. And I felt that the setting with the very distant Irish Civil War going on in the background really highlighted how petty this argument between the two men was. But it was such a good film, and I will not be surprised if it wins and gets nominated for lots of awards this year. My next film I watched, because the Gotham Awards nominations came out, I decided to watch one that was easily accessible on Netflix, which was What We Leave Behind, a documentary that was following a granddaughter trying to get to know her grandfather a bit more before he died. A very simple story. It was good enough, but it didn't have enough to hook me and entice me throughout, but they simply were just a normal guy, so if that's your sort of thing, I would definitely recommend it.
Suddenly I'm dressed in something way less expensive. It's H&M! Yay! Balenciaga! And H&M! Balenciaga! And H&M!
Another anticipated film was Triangle of Sadness by Ruben Östlund. It was hilarious from start to finish and a great satire that left no stone left unturned. It was split perfectly into 3 parts, and despite its 2.5-hour runtime, it didn't feel like that at all, and I never got bored because it was hilarious and I was cry laughing from start to finish. The cinematography was great, and I kind of wish it wins this year because it made me feel so nauseous, especially in the third half. It was very unique in its stylization, and it was just great from start to finish. It was one of my favourite cinema experiences in a long time, and definitely one of my favourite films of this year.
So what do? I sell shit.
28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds.
And finally, on Halloween, I rewatched for the 100th time Donnie Darko, which I do every single year. It is one of my favourite films of all time, and it's just a great story from start to finish. It keeps you guessing and keeps you wondering what happens. And Jake Gyllenhaal is great in it, and the dynamic between himself and Maggie Gyllenhaal was just perfect casting, because it really just did show that they were siblings. The acting throughout is just great, and it's one of the best cult films. It is also a film with such a great soundtrack from start to finish, and it's just amazing, and I love watching it every year. So with Donnie Darko, that concludes my October watch list, which was pretty hectic this month, especially with London Film Festival and me trying to keep up with new releases, especially as we're coming towards Oscar season. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and even comment about the films or give me some film recommendations down below, and I'll make sure I get round to watching them this month in November. Again, if you want to see more film content, make sure you follow all my socials, especially Instagram, where I frequent film reviews, and my Letterboxd, where you can keep up to date in real time of when I watch a film.